Hello friends, welcome to my channel Clinical Biochemistry by Dr. P.K. Prabhakar. Today we are going to talk about the physico-chemical properties of amino acids. Already I have uploaded a video on the classification and the basic information about the amino acids. So in our previous lectures I have all classified amino acids on basis of different criteria. If you have not watched that video, you can watch that video as well. If you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it. You can press the bell button as well, so that you will get all the notifications whenever I will upload my video. So now we are going to see the physicochemical properties of amino acids. So before going for amino acids, just we will see some of the basic information about the amino acids. This is the basic structure of amino acids. As its name suggests, an amino acid is having a amino group as well as it is having a acid group. So that's why it is called as amino acid. Every amino acid is having a central carbon that is called as alpha carbon, and this alpha carbon is having minimum one acid group and one amino group, and one side it is having hydrogen. And fourth subunit, fourth component which is associated with the amino acid, that is R group. This R group is going to vary from amino acid to amino acids. Like in the simplest amino acid glycine, R equal to H, and in different amino acids it will be different things. In some cases it will be aliphatic chain, in some cases it will be aromatic chain, some cases it will be ring structure, some cases it will be benzene ring. So R group is going to vary amino acid to amino acids. So the basic thing is, in all the amino acids except R group, the remaining thing is going to be same. So the main properties of amino acid, which is going to vary from one amino acid to other amino acid, that depends on R group. Like if glycine is having some properties and which that property is not present in the alanine, that is mainly because of their R group. Because most of the portions of amino acids are same. Like, just I'll show it to you. If you see the amino acids, so this portion of amino acid is same. Only their R group is going to vary. So there are different type of properties that is mainly based on their R groups. Now proteins are the polymer of amino acids. So amino acids join together through a specific bonds that is called as peptide bond. How this peptide bond is going to form? So there are two amino acids. The acid group OH present on the COOH group, that is acid group of one amino acid, is going to form a bond with the H present on the, or amino group present on the another amino acid. This is my amino acid number 1 and this is my amino acid number 2. So this amino acid is having COOH group and this is COOH group and this is NH2 group. So what will happen? A COOH group of one amino acid is going to combine with the NH2 of the other amino acids. So these two will combine together. Ultimately, it will remove water and it will form a peptide bond. So this bond is called as the peptide bond. So the bond between CO of one amino acids and NH of another amino acid, that is called as peptide bond. And overall this reaction is a kind of dehydration reaction. Dehydration reaction means where water is going out, and if water is going out, so it is called as dehydration reaction. In another language you can call it is a condensation reactions as well. There are different types of properties of amino acids. So amino acids have a number of properties, and those physicochemical properties are varying. It will be like it is having solubility, melting point, taste, optical properties, deuterion, isoelectric pH, titration curve of the glycines. So different types of properties are there. So every amino acids, if you see the basic structure of amino acids, so in this case amino acid is having three important things. So those three things is having three different kind of properties. Like amino acids having some specific character which is because of this NH2 group. So if this amino group can show some kind of chemical reaction, some kind of chemical characteristic features, so that all the amino acids, because this group is present in all the amino acids. So every amino acid is having a specific characteristic feature, a specific chemical reactions due to this amino group. Similarly, every amino acid is having COH group. So all the amino acids will show you some kind of special chemical reactions, special chemical properties or physical properties which is due to only due to this COH group. Similarly, every amino acid is having R group is different. So there some amino acids will have a different types of properties other than this NH2 and COH. This property is due to NH2 and this property because of COH that will be shown by all the amino acids. But the characteristic feature, the reactions, the chemical properties which is due to this R group that is varying amino acid to amino acids. So if we'll say the amino acids is having one kind of property which is shown due to carboxy groups. Those properties because of the carboxy groups, and those reactions which is shown by the carboxy groups are decarboxylations, where carbon dioxide will be removed from the amino acids. So that is decarboxylation, means removal of the carbon dioxide. Second type of reaction which is shown by the carboxy groups is it because it is acid group, so it reacts with alkali and uh, giving us the salt. Third kind of reaction is where acids reacts with alcohol and gives us ester, so that is called esterification reactions. And COH group is also going to react with amines. So these are the four important reactions which is shown by carboxy groups. Similarly, some kind of chemical reactions which is shown due to the amino groups present in the amino acids, and those reactions are those chemical properties are it reacts with mineral acids. There are three mineral acids we are having: sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, and nitric acid. Means HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4, and HNO3, that is nitric acid. So all those three mineral acids reacts with these amino groups because amino group is alkaline group. So acid reacts with alkali and gives us salt. Then it is also going to give us a reaction where it reacts with the ninhydrin. Ninhydrin is a chemicals which is the characteristic feature of all the alpha amino acids. We will talk about that one also. Number of amino acids is having a special chemical reaction because of their R groups. So that is color reaction. Those color reactions normally we are using for the identification of amino acids. Similarly, two important other properties where amino groups is going to be removed from amino acids and it will be used for other property, like work other type of functions, that is called as transaminations and deaminations. So these are the chemical properties which is due to amino group present on the amino acids. Then there are certain reactions where both carboxy and amino group is going to involve. That is ninhydrin reactions and reaction with the Edemans degradations, which normally we are using for the sequencing properties. So now we are going to see one by one. First, we will see the physico-chemical properties of the amino acids. First, we are going to talk solubility. Most of the amino acids is having COH group, and because of that one, it can forms the hydrogen bonds, and because it forms the hydrogen bonds, so it is soluble in water. So almost all the amino acids is having COH group, and it can forms the hydrogen bonds, and because of that one, it is soluble in water, and normally it is insoluble in organic solvents. Organic solvents means, sorry. So it is insoluble in organic solvents. Melting point. Normally, if you see the generally amino acids are melted at very high temperature, and roughly it is more than 200 degrees centigrades. And taste. When we are talking about the taste of the amino acids, it can be some of the amino acids are sweet in taste, some of the amino acids are tasteless, some of the amino acids are bitter in taste. Like glycine, alanine, and valine are sweet in taste. Leucine is tasteless, and the arginine and isoleucines are bitter in taste. Then one of the we can call it taste improving chemicals, that is called as Ajinomoto. Normally, commonly we are using it. Otherwise, chemically it is called as monosodium glutamate. In abbreviation, we are calling MSG, monosodium glutamate, which is a flavoring agent in food industry and Chinese food. In some individuals, causes Chinese restaurant syndromes. If you see Chinese foods, it is a salt like chemicals, crystals, which normally we are using in the Chinese food, and it works on our taste buds and increases the good feeling. So that Chinese food normally everyone likes because of this Ajinomoto, which normally works on our taste bud. And then optical properties, if you see, because I have told you amino acid is having 4 different groups associated with the central carbon, that is alpha carbon. One side it is having amino groups, other side it is having COH groups, third group is hydrogen, and fourth group is R. Except glycine, R is different thing other than hydrogen. So only glycine cannot have any asymmetric carbon, otherwise all the amino acid is having minimum one asymmetric carbon. And whenever you are having asymmetric carbons, they can show you optical properties. So all amino acids except glycine possess optical isomers due to the presence of asymmetric alpha carbon. Like if you see here, this is amino group, this is COH group, this is H and this is R. So this carbon is having 4 single bonds. Any carbon which is having 4 single bonds means no multiple bonds, and all the groups associated with those 4 single bonds, if they are different, means that carbon is asymmetric carbon. So in this case, this carbon is the asymmetric carbon. So whenever we are having asymmetric carbon, means it can show me optical isomerism. So two rules for the asymmetricity is the carbon must have 4 single bonds, no double or triple bonds, and all 4 substituents to those bonds R should be the different groups. So in this case, this alpha carbon except glycine, because in case of glycine R equal to hydrogen. So in that case, it is not, glycine is not going to follow my second rule. Means all the 4 things are not the different thing. That's why otherwise rest other 19 amino acids are the having the showing the optical properties, because they are having minimum one asymmetric alpha carbon. So if we'll see the optical properties, normally we are having 2 types of amino acids. One is D form, other one is L form. D form and L form we can call it depending on the molecular weight, atomic number of the groups which is associated with the central carbon. So this is my central carbon here. If we'll say the atomic number of nitrogen is 7, carbon is 6, hydrogen is 1. So if you will move according to increasing atomic number, so 1 to 6, so this here we are going to move in the right handed direction. So this is D form of amino acids, means that is dextro form. Dextro means right handed. In this case, this is 1, hydrogen is 1, carbon is 6, nitrogen is 7. So here we are moving. If we go from 1, means from increasing atomic number, so 1 to 7. So in this, it is left-handed direction, that is levorotatory. So levo means left-handed direction. So this amino acid is L amino acid, this is D amino acids. Both amino acids having everything, empirical formula, atomic things are same. Only their special three-dimensional orientations are different. That is it. So it is called D and L form of amino acids. So all the amino acids involved in the protein synthesis are L type, normally in our case, except in case of bacteria, in case of some other special places where we are using D form of amino acids. Otherwise, in human or in plants or normally most of the living systems, we are using only L form of amino acids for protein synthesis. Then another property of amino acids is the formation of deuterion and isoelectric point. If you'll see, this is the amino acids which is having COH group. Normally this is non-ionized group, non-ionized structures, where COH group and NH2 groups are unionized. But uh, sometimes if we'll change the pH, normally this is only some cases, sometimes it will be exist in these cases unionized form, but otherwise most of the cases amino acid exist in the ionized form. So when it is going to exist in the ionized forms, so it amino, because this is amino groups is having a tendency to accept H plus. So it can have a extra H plus and it will have a positive charge. And COH group, because it is acid group, so acid groups is having a tendency to remove H plus, donate H plus. So H plus has gone from here, so ultimately it is having a negative charge. Now the special thing in this case is, in the same molecule, single molecules, we are having one positive charge and one negative charge. So overall charge on this molecule is 0, means only one positive charge, one negative charge, so overall charge is 0. Because overall charge is 0, so electrically it is a neutral. And this type of ion is called as deuterion. So, and molecules and chemical entity which is having equal number of positive charge and equal number of negative charge at the same moment of time. So electrically it is neutral, chemically it is neutral because of same charges, same number of charges. That is called as deuterion. And the pH at which this deuterion exists is called as isoelectric pH or isoelectric point. And normally isoelectric pH or point we are going to denote in Pi form. So again I'm telling you, it is a chemical entity which is having same amount of charges in the cationic charge, same amount of anionic charge, means same number of positive charge, same number of negative charge. So electrically it is neutral, it does not have overall charge. That is called as deuterion. And the pH at which this deuterion exists, it is called as isoelectric pH or isoelectric point. So for every amino acids, we are having a specific isoelectric pH where that amino acid exists in the deuterion forms. So a deuterion is a compound with no overall electrical charge but which contains separate part have positive and negative charge. This isoelectric pH, if you see, this is the I have told you this is our amino acids which is unionized forms. If we will going to decrease the pH, low pH means we are having sufficient amount of H plus available in the nature. So when we are having sufficient amount of H plus available in the medium, what will happen? Any group which can accept H plus, they will take H plus. So this is NH2 can take H plus. So NH2 will take H plus and becomes NH3 plus. So whenever you are going to decrease pH or amino acid at the lower pH normally exists in the form of positive charge. It is amino acid will be positively charged when pH is going down, decreasing below its isoelectric pH. Similarly, if you go or increase the pH, so there when you are going to at higher pH, that time H plus concentration, H plus ion will be less, OH amount will be less. So low H plus and high OH minus. So when high OH minus will be there, so what will happen? This COH will lose their H plus. So in that case, amino acid exists in the negatively charged, means if two things, if you increase pH towards alkaline side, amino acid exists as a negatively charged molecules. When you decrease pH in the acidic sides, amino acid exists in the form of positively charged molecules. But at some certain specific pH, amino acid exists in the deuterion form, that is at isoelectric pH. So the pH at which amino acid will have both the charges on positive as well as the negative charge in the equal amount, that is called as deuterion forms. So the isoelectric pH is the pH of a solution at which the net charge of a protein or the amino acid is 0. So no, electrically it is neutral, no charges overall. Otherwise it will have positive, it will have negative, but overall charge is 0. Now how to calculate the isoelectric pH, isoelectric point or isoelectric pH? Like this is amino acid which is having two ionizable groups. One ionizable group is COH group which is having pKa value of 2.34 and other ionizable group is NH3. This is the pK value for this amino acid is 9.69. So if any amino acid is having only two ionizable groups, in that case we are going to take the average of both the pKa value. So this 2.34 plus 9.69 divided by 2 equal to 6.02. This is one rule. So whenever we are having this type of things, we can take the average and we can calculate the pK value. So the pi value can be calculated by taking the average pK value corresponding to the ionizable groups. So when but this rule is applicable only when we are having only two ionizable groups. But think I am having amino acid which is having more than two ionizable groups, more than 3 or 4 or 5 ionizable groups. In that case, like this is one ionizable groups which is having pK value of 2.19. pK means it is a dissociation constant at which this is going to dissociate. Another ionizable group is this COH which is in the R groups. Their pK value is 4.25. and this NH3 is the third ionizable group which is having a pK value for 9.69. So in that case, how to calculate the pi, isoelectric pH of this amino acid? Because in this case we cannot take average of these three amino pK value and we will calculate. This is wrong. So how to calculate it? So first we'll say we will go and we'll say, just one second, just one second. So we are going to put it in the lowest positive, lowest kind of pH, lower than this 2.19 pH. So you have seen whenever we are going to decrease pH at the lowest pH, the amino acid normally exists in the positively charged forms. So if I will put a pH less, very less, that is roughly less than the 2.19, amino acid exists in positively charged. So most protonated forms you can call it, means maximum. So every places where proton can be added, proton will be there. So in this case, this is one proton, this is two proton, and this is three protonated forms. So at lowest pH, it exists in this structures which is having one overall one positive charge as this one. So this is having one positive charge, that is lowest pH. If you are slowly going to increase the pH, so as soon as you are going to reach to the pH of 2.19, what will happen? Because that is the dissociation constant for this COH group. So what will happen? This COH group will start losing H plus from there. So if H plus will be losing, so it will be COO minus. So in that case, what will happen? It is having one positive charge and one negative charge. So overall, it will have a zero charge, because at this pH it exists in the deuterium type of forms. Then if you're going to increase some more pH, and as soon as if pH will be reached at 4.25, at that time this COH group also lose their H plus. So in that case, it will have two negative charge, one negative charge here and one negative charge here, and one positive charge. So overall charge will be two negative, one positive, so equal to one negative charge. In the third times, when you are going to increase the pH above 9.767, then this NH3 will lose their protons. So what will happen? This will lose their protons, and so this positive charge has gone. So it means it does not have any positive charge, but it is having two negative charge, at one at this place and another is at this place. So overall charge is two negative. Now if we'll see this structure according to our deuterium formula, deuterium definitions, a deuterium does not have overall charges, and that is this is the deuterium type of structures which does not have overall charge. So this deuterium exists in between the pH of 2.19 and pH of 4 to 4.25. So in that case, we are going to take the average of these two pH, 2.19 and 4.25. We will take the average of these two pH. So ultimately we will get 3.22, and that is the isoelectric pH of this amino acids. So again, I'm going to tell what we are going to, how we are going to solve this type of problem is, first we will put amino acid at the lowest pH. Lowest pH means less than the pK value which is you are having. So like at pH 1. So in that case, it is going to be in the most protonated form. So all the part where proton can be added, it will have a proton. Then you are going to slowly increase the pH by adding, sorry, you are going to increase the pH by adding alkali or NaOH. So what will happen? As soon as pH is increasing, it will reach near 2.19 pH, because that is the first pH we are having. If you'll see, this is 2.19, this is 9.67, this is 4.25. So first we will reach to this pH. So what will happen? This COH group will be ionized. It will lose their H plus. So in that case, we are going to have one positive, one negative. It will be 0. If slowly, if we will increase more pH, it will reach to the 4.25. So there we are having one negative charge, overall one negative charge, because two negative and one positive will be there. And similarly, if we will increase the pH at 9.67, it will have overall 2 negative charge. So according to our deuterion formula, this is the deuterion. So this deuterion exists between this pH and this pH. So we will take the average of these two pH. So by this way you can calculate the isoelectric pH of any amino acids. So no need to remember the pK value for different groups. It will be given in your questions paper. So whenever questions will be there, pK value has to be given. Now, if you see titration curve of glycine or any amino acids, titration curves are obtained when a pH of a given volume of a sample solutions varies according by addition of acid or alkali. I will show you. Normally, we are going to here we will do by adding alkali. So the curve are normally usually a plot of pH against the volume of titrant added. So on one axis we will have the acid or alkali added, and another axis we will have a pH, and then we'll see how much equivalent is required for per mole for the neutralizations. So normally this is the characteristic, this nature of acid being titrated depends on the number of ionizable groups, the pK of the ionizable groups, and the buffer regions. Here is the titration graph of one of the amino acids. So say we have started from the lowest pH. So like this is my amino acid. So what will happen when we have started? So at a specific pH, this is the pK value for this amino acids, one of the amino acids. So at the lowest pH, at this particular pH, this amino acid exists in the most protonated forms. Most protonated form means it will have a protonated at COH as well as NH2 groups. When you have increases the pH, so once as soon as it will reach at its first pK value, means acid will have the first pK value, so it will lose their H plus. So ultimately it will have a negatively charged. In that case it will have a one positive and one negative charge. Then if you are going to increase some more pH, it will have one NH2 will lose their pH proton, and it will have no positive charge, so overall it will have one negative charge. So this is the graph. By adding OH or by adding NaOH, you are increasing the pH, and according to increasing the pH, the nature of amino acid, the charge on amino acid decreases, varying. So this is called as titration curve of amino acids, where we are going to plot a graph between the pH as well as the OH equivalent or acid or alkali equivalent. Now come to the chemical properties of amino acids. The first reactions is decarboxylation reaction, which is because of the carboxyl group. The salt ester formations. So because acid groups are acid, so whenever acid groups reacts with any kind of bases, it will, or acids, because this is acid group, so any acids which reacts with the base or alkali, it will give us salts. Like this is normally for any kind of amino acid groups. This COH groups, if it is going to react with any of alcohols, it will form the ester. So you have to remember it. The COH group of amino acid reacts with alkali or base, it gives me salt, it gives us salt, and when it reacts with any kind of alcohol, it gives us ester. That is called esterification reactions. Next is decarboxylation reaction. Decarboxylation means the removal of carbon dioxide from the molecules. So like this is amino acids. So in this amino acid, we are going to react. It will be decarboxylated, means this CO2 is going to be exit in the form of carbon dioxide. So ultimately what will happen? It will be going to form a corresponding amines. And for these reactions, we require a specific amino acid decarboxylase. So for every amino acids, for their decarboxylation reactions, we are having a decarboxylase enzymes which convert amino acid into their corresponding amines. For example, here we are having histidine. The enzyme is histidine decarboxylase. So carbon dioxide will be exiting from here, and ultimately we will going to get histamine. Histamine is a immunological molecules which normally have some kind of effect on our immune system. Not only histamines, this is glutamate, which is going to be converted to decarboxylase enzyme. The carbon dioxide is going to exit, and it will be gamma amino butyric acid. That is a neurotransmitter molecules which works as a neurotransmitter. Similarly, tryptophan, which is going to be decarboxylated, and converted to serotonin. Serotonin is one of the decarboxylated product, and ultimately it can give you the melatonin also. But this is the decarboxylated product of tryptophan. And again, serotonin is having immunological responses, immunological roles. Then the reactions with the ammonia. So whenever we are having ammonia means it is NH3. So this ammonia is a base alkaline in nature and this is acid. So whenever this carboxylic group reacts with ammonia in the presence of a specific enzymes, it gives us amine. Corresponding amine will form. So from here H2O will go, one H from here and this OH, and ultimately amine will form. So that is called glutamic acid will give me glutamine, aspartic acid will give me asparagine. So aspartic acid gives asparagine, glutamic acid gives glutamine. That is the react after the reaction of ammonia. Now come to the chemical properties due to the amino groups. So there the first reactions is because amino groups are base alkali groups, basic groups. So this basic group is having a properties to it will react with any kind of acids and gives me salts. So mineral salt along with mineral salt means we are having HCl, H2SO4 and H2HNO3. So these are the three mineral acid, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid and nitric acid. So the amino group which behaves as base and combines with acids, any of the mineral acids, here example is only HCl is written, but it can react with sulfuric acid as well as it can react with nitric acid as well to forms the corresponding salts. Second reaction is it is a reaction with the ninhydrin. This reaction, ninhydrin reactions, is the basic properties of all the alpha amino acids. So whenever we want a test for alpha amino acids, we are going to perform this ninhydrin test. In this ninhydrin test, so where it is a kind of characteristic test, characteristic feature of all the amino acids. Ninhydrin chemically it is a oxidizing agent. So this reactions occurs in again two steps, and this is overall reaction if you see it. First step is where alpha amino acid reacts with ninhydrin molecules and ultimately it gives me hydrindentin, that is a partially reduced product, and amino acid ultimately converted to aldehyde, ammonia and carbon dioxide. So these three are coming from amino acids and ninhydrin is converted to hydrindentin, that is partially reduced product. The hydrindentin which we have got here is going to react with the ammonia which we have got here and the second molecule of ninhydrin. Means in first reactions, amino acid reacts with ninhydrin. So amino acid will be degraded, divided into three fragments. One is aldehyde, second one is ammonia, and third is carbon dioxide. This hydrindentin, which is converted from the ninhydrin, reacts with the ammonia and one molecule of ninhydrin ultimately gives me a complex compound that is diketohydrin, that is called as remains purple, and its color is purple. So that color, purple color formation is the indication of positive ninhydrin reactions. So if you see the first step of reactions where alpha amino acid reacts with ninhydrin and ultimately amino acid converted into aldehyde, ammonia and carbon dioxide. So this is ninhydrin molecules which is normally having two OH group on the same carbon. Commonly in organic chemistry this is unstable reactions, but here because of hydrogen bond formation this is partially stable. This ninhydrin reacts with amino acids. So ultimately this amino acid is going to convert it into three different fragments and this RCHO in the aldehyde form. So carbon dioxide from amino acids, NH3 from amino acids, and this RCHO from amino acids. So amino acid converted into these three compounds, and this ninhydrin is converted into hydrindentin, which is partially reduced product. Why partially reduced product? Because it loses oxygen from there. So once removal of oxygen is reduction. So ninhydrin partially reduced to hydrindentin. And why it is partially? Because some more oxygen can be removed from here. So that's why we are calling it partially reduced. In the second reactions, the hydrindentin which we have got in the previous reactions and the ammonia which is coming from amino acids reacts with the new molecule of ninhydrin and ultimately forms the remains purple. And this is the reactions. This is my fresh ninhydrin molecule This is the hydrogen dentin from the previous reactions, and this is the ammonia from the previous reactions. So ultimately, this complex is going to form, and this is called as Rumen's purple. That is the characteristic feature of all the alpha amino acids, wherever it will be. So this is final reactions where two molecule of hydrogen reacts with amino acids. Ultimately, we have got carbon dioxide, 3 molecule of water and aldehyde will come out, and ammonia reacts with these two molecule of hydrogen and ultimately gives me diketohydrogen or remains purple. Here one exception is there because this is the characteristic feature of all the alpha amino acids. In the amino acid list, whatever we are having, one of the amino acid which is proline. So proline is not a amino acid. Prolines and hydroxyproline are amino acids. So whenever in rest of the amino acids, whenever hydrogen reacts, it gives us purple reactions, purple reagent, purple product. But when same reaction will be done through proline or hydroxyproline, the color substances which is going to form, that is yellow in color. So yellow colors things will form. The next reaction is deaminations. Deamination is a reactions which is removal of amino groups from a molecules. Enzyme which catalyzes this type of reactions is called as deaminases. So deaminases, we are having different types of deaminations. In human body, deamination takes place mainly in the livers. However, some amount of deamination also occurs in kidney. And the if you see, this is the amino acids which is having central carbon. This is amino groups. This is COH groups, and this is H and R groups. So this amino groups exit in the form of ammonia. This is called deamination reaction, removal of amino group in the form of ammonia, which is normally toxic for cell. Why it is toxic? Because ammonia is insoluble in the water, and it is as insoluble in water, so we cannot emit, cannot remove from the body. And why it is toxic? Because it increases the alkaline nature of the blood. So alkalosis can cause. Plus, if you are having surplus amount of ammonia, that can react with alpha ketoglutarate, and so alpha ketoglutarate of the Krebs cycle will be deteriorated, it will be utilized. So the energy product producing ATC will be stopped. So that's why it is toxic. So we have to remove it from our body. So body removes by converting them into the urea, which is water soluble, and through urine it can be removed. Remaining, if ammonia will be removed, then remaining carbon skeleton is going to be converted into carbon dioxide and water, and that will convert into different metabolites or energy productions, either through Krebs cycle, electron transport chains, or ketone body formations. So that is the normal process. This is deamination reactions. So once you are going to remove this amino group from the amino acids, the deaminated product is a keto acids, which amino acid which lacks ammonia, which lacks amino group, is called as keto acids. So this amino acid after deamination gives us a keto acids. There are four different types of deamination reactions occurs. Those four important types of deaminations are oxidative, reductive, hydrolytic, and intramolecular. We will have a separate video on the details deaminations, both oxidative and other different types. Similarly, we will have a separate video on transamination reactions. Here we are just going to see the summary of transaminations, but we will have a detailed video and detailed mechanism. So transamination reaction is slightly ahead of the deamination reaction. In deamination reactions, only we have removed ammonia from one amino acids in the form of ammonia. In case of transamination reactions, the removed ammonia is going to be taken by another components, another molecules. So in case of transamination, the transfer of amino group from an amino acid to a keto acid, and thus creating new amino acid and keto acids. Like if you see here, this is amino acids. When this amino acid reacts with a keto acid, so this is having an amino group, this does not have amino acid, this lacks amino group. So when these two reacts it, this amino acid is going for deamination reactions, means the ammonia will be removed from here, and that will be taken by this group. So this keto acid is converted to amino acid because here it was lacking amino group, and once amino group will be added here, it will becomes amino acid. So this keto acid converted to amino acids, and in my previous slides I have told you amino acid after deamination converted into keto acids. So overall transamination reaction is a reaction between one amino acid and one keto acid, and ultimately amino acid will be converted into keto acids and keto acid will be converted to amino acids. And here we require a special enzyme that is called as transaminase enzymes. Along with that one, it also requires a intermediate cofactor that is called as PDP, pyridoxal phosphate. The ammonia is not going to be directly transferred to the keto acids, but it requires an intermediate. So ammonia will be first taken by pyridoxal phosphate. So ammonia will be first transferred from amino acid to the pyridoxal phosphate, and then pyridoxal phosphate transfer amino group to the keto acids. So the ultimately thing is amino group is transferred to the keto acids mediated by PDP, pyridoxal phosphates. So this is transamination reactions. We will have a separate video, detailed video on that one. Now this is the color reaction of amino acids. There are these are, you can call it detection reactions, or you can call it identification reaction of amino acids, where we will see one by one. Biuret reactions, that is a color reactions for peptide linkage. So whenever peptide bond will be there, biuret reactions will be positive. So any peptide bonds, minimum 2 peptide bond is required for this is positive. Ninhydrin test, already we have seen, we have a separate video on ninhydrin test. I will put the link in the descriptions. So ninhydrin reactions is the mainly test for the alpha amino acids. Xanthoprotic tests and Millen's tests are the test for normally aromatic amino acids. Millen's test only for the tyrosines. Xanthoprotic test for all the 3 aromatic amino acids. It will be tyrosine, tryptophan, and phenylalanine. Hopkins cold test is the test for indole ring, and indole ring is present only in the tryptophan. Sakaguchi reactions is the test for guanidino groups, which is normally present in arginine. So arginine only gives the Sakaguchi test positive. Then nitroprusside test is the presence of sulfhydryl group. Sulfhydryl group means SH group. So that sulfhydryl group is present only in the cysteine. So only cysteine gives a positive sulf nitroprusside reactions. Similarly, sulfur test is also positive only for the sulfhydryl group, that is cysteine only. Polish test is for imidazole ring, and if you see the structure of histidine, which is having imidazole ring, so only histidine gives the positive reaction for this Polish test. And last is Folin Koitachu test, which is for the phenolic ring, and phenolic ring normally present in the tyrosine, so only tyrosine gives the Folin Koitachu test. From this one, some of the chemical reactions, some of the reactions I have separate video. I will put in the description box. Like biuret test, we are having separate video. Ninhydrin test, we are having separate video. Xanthoprotic and Millen's test, we are having separate video. For remaining, I will upload a different separate video in details, principal procedures, and other things. So that's all. Hope you have understand the different chemical reactions. You can follow me on the different social networking sites. If you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it. If you have any query, any comments, you can write in the comment box. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.